Welcome to this webinar. My name is Stephanie, and today's topic is about following end-of-life care strategies. End of life refers to the client's last remaining days, weeks, or months. Individuals are also assessed as likely to die within 12 months or also considered at the end of life. End-of-life care is care that is given to a person approaching end of life. When a person is said to be in the end-of-life stage, death is expected shortly. The goals of medical treatments and procedures change. End-of-life care is not focused on curing the illness. The primary goal of end-of-life care is to focus on comfort and improving the client's quality of life in their remaining days. End-of-life care strategies refer to action plans that promote the client's comfort and improve their quality of life during their last days. End-of-life care strategies include regular check for changes in the individualised plan, provide a supportive environment to the person, carer, families, and others during the end-of-life care. Respect and support the person's preferences and culture when providing end-of-life care. Maintain the dignity of the person throughout end-of-life care. Recognise and report any signs of imminent death, dying, or deterioration. Provide emotional support to the bereaved when death has occurred. End-of-life care strategies refer to the action plans that promote the client's comfort and improve their quality of life during their last days. End-of-life care strategies also aim to provide comfort and support to the family, carer, and relevant others during the end of life and the period after death. Regularly check for changes in the individualised plan. The client's needs will change throughout care. During end-of-life care, where a decline in health is expected, these changes can occur often. You must check the individualised plans regularly. This is to accommodate any changes or additions to the person's needs and to keep everyone in the care team updated. Review these changes frequently to aid the care team in addressing the person's current needs to ensure it is based on the most recent information. Refer to your organisation's policies and procedures on how to track and review these changes. The client's needs will change throughout care. During end-of-life care, where a decline in health is expected, these changes can often occur. Check the individualised plans regularly. This is to accommodate any changes or additions to the person's needs and to keep everyone in the care team involved. Frequently review all changes to the client's needs. Reviewing these changes will aid the care team in addressing the person's current needs. Refer to your organisation's policies and procedures on how to track and review these changes. Policies and procedures may include the frequency or schedule of review and tools to be used. Provide a supportive environment to the person and their relevant others during end-of-life care. End-of-life care has great psychological and emotional impact on the person, family, carer, and others. Psychological impact refers to the effects of a situation on a person's mind or thoughts. Emotional impact refers to the effects of a situation on a person's emotions. The possible impact, psychological impact, can include the client. They will display feelings of depression, anxiety, and fear. For family, restlessness due to thinking about the things that need to be done, depression and anxiety. The carer, depression, anxiety, fatigue, burnout, and sleep problems. Others, for example, the client's friends or colleagues, reduce focus in some stretches during work hours, depression and anxiety. The possible emotional impact can include the client's despair, helplessness, anger, and grief. For the family, guilt, helplessness, anticipatory grief. For the carer, guilt, helplessness, and anticipatory grief. Others, for example, the client's friends or colleagues, may feel guilt, helplessness, and anticipatory grief. The grieving process may start as early as the end of life for the people close to the client. Anticipatory grief is a grief felt when a loved one is still living, but for whom death is inevitable. The family and relevant others may feel sadness, anger, anxiety, resentment, depression, guilt, fear, fatigue, and emotionally numb. The client and their relevant others will need a safe space where they can grieve or express their feelings. Those struggling with anticipatory grief may need to be reminded that feeling a sense of loss does not mean they are giving up. Encourage family and others to talk about their feelings. Reach out to other people or groups for help and support. Reach out to a higher being as a source of strength. Create memories with the client while they still can. Be prepared for any situation and always find ways to take control. Take care of themselves physically and emotionally. Emotional support during end-of-life care can be provided in different ways. When providing emotional support, remember to approach the concerned individual with empathy and sensitivity. If you feel that further support may be needed, confirm the next steps you need to take with the appropriate person. You can also give support by ensuring there is proper coordination between the services needed by the client. To ensure that relevant services are well coordinated, you should communicate as soon as practical any updates regarding the person's condition, including their wants, needs, and care preferences, to the relevant services to ensure everyone involved are on the same page. Ensure the palliative care team has quick access to service helplines or contact methods in emergencies. Develop and establish a coordination system with the relevant services to ensure smooth delivery of services for the person. Respect and support the person's preferences and culture when providing end-of-life care. Part of providing end-of-life care is to deliver care that is appropriate to the client's needs and condition. Care must also be aligned with their expressed wishes. You must understand and respect your client's beliefs. Often their cultural, religious, or spiritual beliefs can help them cope with their illness and suffering. Clients' values and beliefs should not interfere with their rights to receive end-of-life care. Cultural differences in relation to death and dying. Cultural significantly influences a person's view of sickness, death, and dying. There are many practices and beliefs surrounding death. These practices have one thing in common. They help the sick transition to the afterlife peacefully. Some beliefs and practices of some cultural groups. Beliefs about death. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, family members mourn the passing of their loved one through the sorry business. The community mourns the deceased. Some do not conduct businesses and activities during this time. Latin Americans, death does not stop the connection between the living and the deceased. The dead are honored during the Day of the Dead. They believe that the departed can rise from the dead and celebrate them. East Asians, death is viewed as a part of life. Grief and mourning are also relational and filial. Family members are expected to be present at the time of death. They believe that the deceased will look after the ones left behind. Central Americans, death is an occasion for family and friends to get together. Some groups celebrate the departed's life. They share memories of them over drinks and food. Mexicans, death is seen as a new beginning. The Day of the Dead is an occasion for celebration. The deceased are remembered and celebrated through joyful songs and dances. Africans, death rituals are very important in their culture. They believe that the departed spirits can be at peace if they are given a proper ritual. Some beliefs and practices of some cultural groups, beliefs about dying. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, immediate and extended family and friends gather to spend time with the person to show respect and prepare them for their greater journey. Latin Americans, rituals are conducted such as last rites, baptism, and bedside prayers. East Asians, family members are expected to care for the person, which is considered an obligation. Central Americans, family members care for the ill person at home until they pass away. The female relatives usually provide care. Mexicans, miniature statues and rosary beads are often placed near the dying person's bed to give reassurance and comfort that God is present. Africans, in some tribes, the person is given water and drink just before dying to prepare them for the long journey ahead. Religious differences in relation to death and dying. Religion refers to a specific and established set of organized beliefs and practices shared by a community or group. Each religion has its higher being. People follow the higher being's teachings in their own lives. Be mindful that each person or family may practice their faith differently. Below are common religions practiced around the world and their beliefs about death. Christianity, upon death, their spirit separates from the physical body. They believe that death is just a passage or transition towards eternal life. Catholicism, Catholics believe they will come face to face with God upon death. However, those who do not repent upon committing a grave sin cannot enter heaven. Islam, death is not the end, but a transition to the next stage of existence. While on earth, they must endeavor to prepare for the next life that is to come. Judaism, death is a natural process that must be allowed but not hastened. They forbid euthanasia, suicide, and assisted suicide. Hinduism, they believe in reincarnation. To escape the cycle of death and rebirth, they have to achieve nirvana. Buddhism, they believe rebirth follows after death. Death and suffering are part of life. They can achieve nirvana or enlightenment through good actions and earned wisdom. Achieving enlightenment stops the cycle of death and rebirth. Below are some common religious practice around the world and their beliefs about dying. Christianity, a pastor visits the dying person to read the scriptures and pray over the dying person. This is done to help the person repent for their sins and prepare them for the afterlife. Catholicism, when the person is nearing their death, they should receive the sacrament of anointing of the sick to absolve them from their sins and give them strength, courage, and peace of mind to face death. Islam, a person's death is predetermined. Only Allah knows the exact time of a person's death. Methods such as suicide, euthanasia, and murder are prohibited. Judaism, they believe a person should not be alone towards death. The dying person must have a companion with them during the last hours of their life. Hinduism, they believe that a dying person should die at home. Their family and friends will sing sacred hymns and recite prayers. Buddhism, Buddhists believe that how they live affects their future, including how they will die. They need to do good deeds for themselves and others to achieve calmness when they die. Spiritual differences in relation to death and dying. Spirituality is distinct from religion. While religion is a shared practice in a group or community, spirituality is an individual practice. Spirituality is one of a personal journey towards discovering their inner self. Those who do not follow a specific religion may practice spirituality alone. They make their own sets of beliefs that guide them in their everyday life. Below are some examples of spiritual beliefs related to death and dying. Death is a constant reminder that one should live their purpose each day. There is no such thing as an afterlife. Death is a constant reminder that one should live their purpose each day. Dying, mercy killing may be appropriate in some instances, as this does not prolong the dying person's suffering. The necessary rituals must be provided for the dying person to ensure they will have a peaceful death. Maintain dignity of the person throughout the end-of-life care. Maintaining a person's dignity is essential before and after death. You must follow their wishes as indicated in their advanced care directive. Their wishes may involve refusal or agreement to certain medical treatments. It can also include specific medical decisions in the event of a critical deterioration. Other directives may take place when death has occurred. These wishes may include honouring any cultural or religious requirements. Death at home. When the client has chosen to spend their remaining days at home, the family needs to know what will happen. Since a health professional may not be present when the client dies, it is better to plan ahead with the family. Part of planning is educating the family on the death process. They should be familiar with the signs and symptoms of death or deterioration. The family must be informed that the processes and procedures following death. This includes contacting certain individuals or religious persons when death has occurred. The family should also coordinate with a medical practitioner who will issue the cause of death certificate. The doctor needs to complete the medical certificate and give notice of death within 48 hours of passing. It may be difficult for the family and others to remember what steps to take when they are dealing with the death of a loved one. It will help to have all the relevant information written down, such as physical processes that a dying person may experience, a list of who to call, a 24-hour palliative care service that they can contact. Death at a residential aged care facility. Residential aged care facilities have their policies and procedures when dealing with the death of a client. Depending on previous discussions with the family, they may have to be notified when the client is nearing death. Be mindful of the cultural or religious requirements of the client and their family. Remember, refer to the Advanced Care Directive for guidance about this matter. The staff helps the family with practical matters so loved ones can say their last farewells to the deceased. Some practical matters include preparing the body and organising the death certificate, contacting a funeral director. What must be done follows the wishes of the deceased. In some religions and cultures, the preparation of the body is a family affair. They may also need a funeral home that caters to their cultural or religious needs. The facility must prepare to accommodate these wishes. Processes for care following death. Many matters need to be taken care of after death has occurred. Here are the matters that may need your attention. Documentation requirements. Death requires proper documentation. A general practitioner or doctor will sign a medical certificate, cause of death, that confirms the death and the cause of the death of the person. The doctor's certificate is required for the issuance of a death certificate. Births, Deaths and Marriages Registration Act outlines the process for registering a death. For one, the doctor has to notify the Registrar General of the death within 48 hours. Each state or territory has its own website detailing procedures and how to apply for a death certificate. Links to Advanced Healthcare Directive. Advanced care directives are typically uploaded on My Health. You'll often refer to this website for information and updates about the client's care. The Advanced Care Directive will outline the client's care preferences at the end of life. It would also contain their wishes and preferences following death. Ensure to check the website for any of the client's last wishes. Services Australia is a government agency that delivers a range of services for Australian citizens. In the case of death, they have to be notified as well. An advice of death form, SA 116, must be accomplished and submitted. You may also inform the family about services that can send notice of death to multiple organisations online. The Australian Death Notification Service is an example. Services like this will greatly help the family in managing or closing the departed's memberships in various organisations. Medico-legal requirements. An expected death refers to a death that is foreseeable. In the community context, this means that death is known to and expected by the staff member who discovers it. Expected death refers to death which results from a terminal illness, involves palliative care services, has a formal agreement between the care team and the family that has active intervention. Unexpected deaths are those that must be investigated before a death certificate can be issued. The Coroner's Act states that unexpected deaths must be reported to the coroner and the police. These circumstances include death that is unexpected, unnatural, or violent, death resulting directly or indirectly from an accident or injury, death attributed to a medical operation or procedure, deceased was not attended to by a doctor within the last 6 months. Deaths in palliative care are usually expected. However, a coroner's report may still be submitted if the death happened due to an unrelated or unexpected event. What constitutes a reportable death may vary according to the Coroner's Act of your state or territory. Unrelated or unexpected events may include fall accidents, overdose on medications, delayed medical treatment. In addition to the reportable deaths, you can check the legislation applicable to your state or territory regarding the process relevant to the disposal of the deceased body. These processes include dealing with organ donation, donation of the body for scientific purposes, preparation, transportation, and disposal of dead bodies, investigation of sudden, unexpected, and unnatural deaths, official certification of death, and burial of dead bodies. Spiritual, cultural, and religious requirements. The spiritual, cultural, and religious needs of the clients must be respected before and after death. Certain rituals and practices are observed to ease the person's journey to the afterlife. After death, the first thing usually done is to prepare the body. The care of the deceased body is generally done by someone who has undergone training. If it is within your job role, ensure to follow your organization's policies or procedures. When providing care, you must observe appropriate precautions and infection control standards. These include proper hand washing, personal protective equipment such as gloves and apron, and proper waste disposal. Personal belongings of the deceased must be handled carefully and with respect. Support for the bereaved. The time immediately following a death can be busy and confusing one for the family. They have to attend to many practical matters which can make it difficult for them to grieve. They must be given support during the dying and after the death of their loved ones. Support can be assistance in practical matters concerning death and funeral. The bereaved will also need emotional support during this time. Some may need to be alone, while others may need someone to talk to about their experience. If you are unsure about how you can support the grieving, you may check with your supervisor or organization. Recognize and report any signs of imminent death, dying, or deterioration. Deterioration is a state where a person's condition becomes progressively worse. It is essential to recognize some signs that can indicate imminent death. This ensures that the client can be given the best possible care during the last days of their life. Once you have recognized signs of deterioration or imminent death, report them to the appropriate care team member. Depending on the advanced care directives of the client, there may be some measures that must be taken. A person's last remaining days or hours is called the terminal phase. During this period, the person is actively dying. The person experiences deterioration, which is an indication of imminent death. The signs of a client's deterioration during the terminal phase include forgetfulness, reduction in the ability to do a wide range of movements, becoming more ill than usual, changes in breathing patterns, dramatic changes in the person's temperament, getting worse as the day or hour passes by, sleepiness and becoming less responsive, noisy chest secretions, or death rattle. Some signs of imminent death may include spending a lot of time in bed and becoming less responsive, having little interest in food or drink, restlessness, confusion about time, place, or identity of loved ones, the person's skin becoming cooler to the touch, laboured, irregular, shallow, or noisy breathing, loss of bladder or bowel control. A client who passes away will lose their breath or pulse, stop blinking or moving their eyes, have dilated pupils, have a relaxed jaw and a mouth that is slightly open, release their bowel and bladder contents, be unresponsive to touch or voice. Provide emotional support to the bereaved when death has occurred. People experience grief and bereavement when they experience a loss in their lives. Many people find that although they may be prepared for the dying process, they may not be ready for the actual death of their loved one. Grief is the emotional response following a loss. Bereavement is the process of adjusting following the loss. Each person is different, and you will find that everyone deals with losses in their own way. Grief is experienced in these stages. Denial. Denial is your body's way of helping you cope with different experiences. This allows you to accept the loss at your pace. Denial is a temporary response that helps you get over the first wave of shock and pain. Once this initial reaction fades, the once bottled emotions will come to the surface. Anger. Pain can also be expressed through anger. The loved one's anger can also be redirected to animate or inanimate objects, themselves or the person who died. Anger is usually seen as a negative emotion but it is necessary to facilitate healing. Anger anchors a person back to reality after feeling lost and disconnected. Bargaining. The feelings of grief may be too much for others that they are willing to do anything to turn back time. Some negotiate with a higher being to spare their loved ones or turn reality into a dream. Feelings of guilt are intensely felt. Depression. This is the most recognizable form of grief. Emptiness is felt as a consequence of losing a loved one. Feelings of despair and intense sadness are also present. Acceptance. At this stage, a person's emotions start to stabilize. They're accepting the reality that their loved one has passed away. They may start building their lives again and reach out to others. Addressing grief and giving support. Each person feels the pain of their loss differently. Grief may consist of physical, emotional, cognitive, and behavioral reactions. No matter how much people have prepared for or anticipated the loss, the experience of death may still be challenging for them. They may react in any or all of these ways. Physically, insomnia, exhaustion, and headaches. Emotional, feelings of guilt, anger, helplessness, relief, and sadness. They may react in any or all of these ways. Cognitive, disorientation, confusion or disbelief. Hallucination. Behavioral could be withdrawal and impaired functioning at school or work. During this challenging time, the family and relevant others must be supported. Informal and formal support can be given to help them cope with their loss. As a support worker, you can help by understanding the bereaved's grieving process and withholding judgment. Expressing your concern towards the bereaved, example, asking how they are doing. Listening with compassion when the bereaved talk about what they are going through. Offering a comforting presence when the bereaved is not yet ready to talk about what they are going through. Offering other ways to support them, such as connecting them with grief support services according to organisational policies and procedures. In this part of the session, we have learned how to follow end-of-life care strategies. In the next session, we will learn to manage emotional responses and ethical issues. Your next step is to go to your tutor's online learning portal and complete the assessment activities. Thank you for your time today. I'd like to leave you with a quote. You matter because you are you, and you matter to the end of your life. We will do all we can, not only to help you die peacefully, but also to live until you die. This quote by Cicely Saunders. This quote from a pioneer in the hospice movement illustrates why palliative care on hospice are so important to the end of life care. Thank you.